This is the Sports Source, presented by Junk Be Gone and Renewal by Anderson. Now, your host, John Pennington.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source. Happy to have you with us today. This show brought to you by Junk Be Gone. I want to tell you what we got coming up. We got 18 straight wins for the Vols. We're not going to talk about all 18. We'll talk about the fact, though, that they have won 18 straight, which I'm not sure I ever thought in my lifetime a Tennessee basketball team would win 18 straight. That's such an impressive accomplishment. We'll also talk about signing day, so much for the rumors that Jeremy Pruitt can't close. And also, we'll talk about Jeremy Pruitt's move this week, late in the week, a little bit of a surprise. VFL Terry Fair, out. And former Vol coach Derek Ansley coming back. Discuss all that and more. Let's get right into it. First segment, as I mentioned, brought to you by a new sponsor here, and I'm really happy to welcome these folks into our show. I've been using Junk Be Gone for years, and my neighbors can tell you this. Part of my annual spring cleaning exercises. Whatever your mess or project, they are the affordable answer in terms of hauling stuff away. Junk Be Gone. It's right in the name. The junk, it be gone. JunkBeGone.biz. I am a huge believer in this company. I use them all the time myself. Great to have them on the Sports Source. Junk Be Gone. All right. Want to welcome in these members of the panel. I'm always happy to have them here as well. Former Vol assistant basketball coach Mark Pankratz is with us, and then Hall of Fame sports writer Mike Strange, and longtime media personality Chuck Cavalier is right down there.
A legend in his own mind.
Legend, yeah. The ham that can't be cured. I do want to start with what I just mentioned. Tennessee knocks off Florida yesterday. They win by 12. Never pulled away from the Gators, but also that game never really looked to be in question. Much like the Missouri game, middle of the week. You looked at both of them, the teams hung around. You never had the real feeling that, oh gosh, this is the day Tennessee could go down. I'm gonna hold off and talk to you in a second, but I'm gonna start with these two down here who've watched an awful lot of Tennessee basketball over the years. The fact that Tennessee not only reached number one, but has held on to that ranking for 3 weeks is an impressive feat. But to have won 18 games in a row, I want to underline that. I want to hammer that home so people appreciate the magnitude of that. After years of covering this program, Mike, did you ever dream you'd see a Tennessee team that could roll off something that's a school record? It's the longest streak in the country now, 18 straight.
No, I didn't. And I think I've been guilty of kind of taking this team for granted, thinking, well, this is nice, but they're no 5 stars. They can't really be this good. This is just a little flash in the pan. Well, no, it's not. 18 wins is 18 wins, and number one for 3 weeks and probably a fourth week, I think, coming up. So, no, this is I'm having to come to terms with what an accomplishment this really is.
Well, and we went into the season, this is a top 5 basketball team, and I think most of us, if not all of us, guys over there agreed too, that probably deserving of the ranking, but the record might not be as good this year as it was last year because your schedule's tougher. You know, you cut some breaks last year, didn't have injuries. But no, they lived up to it and more. Chuck, your thoughts on 18 wins in a row?
Well, I mean, it's like we've talked about. You go back to last season, and it was a team picked to finish 13th in the SEC. And you make the quantum leap to win an 18 in a row. And that goes back to what, 1915 to 1917 or whatever it was. So, I mean, and also it's the impact on other sports we're seeing at UT now. You're hearing that talked about more. Yeah. So, I mean, enjoy the ride because it may not happen again in our lifetime.
Well, and Jeremy Pruitt's used it to his advantage in terms of recruiting, which went well as well. I mean, you've got something to take. You've got a showplace to take people over there in terms of not only a number one team, but the show that Tennessee puts on is pretty darn impressive. Mark, as someone who's coached in the SEC, you know, it's not the ACC, get that. Anytime you're playing in the conference, though, especially when you got the number one in your back, you're going to get everybody's best night in, night out. How surprised are you that this team's been able to do what they've done?
Well, surprised, and I put it back to kind of where we're at in rankings and how we think teams should be. It's because of the 5 stars. It's because of the flash. It's because of what kind of Duke is. We've put aside the fact that coaching is important and developing players is important, and effort and the way a team plays together is all important. Stuff that you can't see in stars and in recruiting and in stats. And I think as a sports in general, we've leaned more towards all the stat stuff. And what this team has done really well is all the stuff that coaching and Coach Barnes and this team, as we talked about, developing players. I mean, that is the biggest part of this team that has allowed them to win 18 straight, because really talented players take nights off. They have issues, but when you've got a team and continuity and coaching and togetherness, it's very hard for all guys to be off on a given night.
And credit to Rick Barnes for recognizing pieces that he could use. When he came here, we talked to people, there were Big 12 writers that, look, he didn't sign Kevin Durant in year 1, it was year 9. When he got to Texas, he built a foundation with guys that fit his system that he could work with, built it up, then you start bringing in the stars. A lot of people, yeah, well, whatever. He's come here. He's got his rocking chair. He's just collecting a check. We're going to talk next segment about 4 and 5 stars that Tennessee signed in football. That's great. How many people, if you go back and check the message boards when they grabbed Grant Williams and beat out Ivy League teams for him, said, yeah, now this is a 2-time SEC Player of the Year. They didn't see it. They were ticked off. Oh, so now we're competing with Brown? That's the best we can do? It's really a testament to Rick Barnes, his assistants, but also those players who continue to allow themselves to be coached, which in this day and age, I don't know how frequent you see that across the country.
Well, and coached not only by the coaches, but by each other.
Yeah.
Right.
They're holding each other accountable, which on the court, and now we're starting to get into the meat of the schedule, that becomes even more important than just as important as Barnes coaching from the sidelines.
All right, well, let me turn it a little bit here. As I mentioned earlier, Missouri, well, let's see what they did this week. Missouri, that's a 2-8 basketball team, 11-11 overall. Florida, 4-6 in the SEC, 12-11 overall. Almost identical scores. You win by 12. You didn't blow them out of the gym. At the same time, it never looked like you were in danger, but they managed to hang around. So I wondered, is this team starting to look a little tired? Rick Barnes said that maybe it was the 9 p.m. start, maybe his team showed a little lethargy, but let's take a look at the minutes. I went back yesterday just to look at the top 5 teams in the country, and here's what I noticed. In terms of guys who are averaging maximum minutes, Tennessee's running with more guys with more minutes than the other teams. Tennessee has 3 players averaging 31-plus minutes. Duke only has 1. Virginia has 2. Gonzaga has 1. Kentucky has none of those guys. You got 3. 25-plus minutes, you're the only one up there with 6 guys at 25-plus minutes. Mark, do you think there's anything to the fact that this team may be, you're hitting the grind portion of the schedule? Do you think legs could be an issue here?
I do think legs is a part of it. I think that's going to be tested even more now with Pons being out in a couple weeks. But I also think it's all the other stuff. The basketball stuff is one thing, but now you are getting the other team's best. Mm-hmm. There is more media. There is more requests. There is more high-fiving around campus. So all of that zaps into energy even before the game hits. But I do think legs and tiredness is an issue.
And the schedule's about to get tougher, too. So that's another thing to face. I'll get with you guys a little bit later. We'll rotate you back in. As he mentioned, Yves Pons going to be out a little while. He's getting a mask made this week in practice. Elbow to the head, they say it dented his skull. That is not a great thing. That sounds very bad. But Pons will return. A little later in this show, Jeremy Pruitt replaces Terry Fair with Derek Ansley. We'll discuss that. But next, big signing day. Let's recap it. Who are the early impact guys for the Vols in 2019? Come on back.